Welcome to our custom space where dreams take flight. Positive visions come to life. It's a perfect sight. We bond together, blooming free.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel Custom Carving and Epoxy UK, and I hope you're all doing well. And this video is going to be a little bit different. You may remember a few videos ago I tried to mix the Petri and the bloom effect. And it was quite successful. I liked the result, but I wanted to see what it would look like layered, because I love the Petri effect and I also love the 3D bloom effect of those petals. So I'm going to try it in these 4 coasters. So all I've done is I've mixed up just over 5 ounces. These take about 2 ounces each. So I want about 1 ounce in for this layer. The plan is I'm going to put the Petri effect in where I want it on this first layer, and then come back in with the second layer and do the bloom effect and see what it looks like. Again, I don't know. It might look completely separate and not very nice, or it could be an amazing result. So that's what I'm going to do. So first thing I'm going to do is just pour in hopefully about 1 ounce of resin in each of these. And I'm using a medium viscosity resin for this. I'm using the Tea Expert one, but it is quite cold in the UK at the minute. So that's probably why it appears a little bit thicker than it normally does. And I just want to make sure that I've got a layer enough to get that Petri in there across all of them. And don't worry about the bubbles. Even though this has been through a bubble removal machine, what I'm finding is because the temperatures are lower, they're also lower in my house. And therefore there's a bit more bubble maintenance, shall we say, that needs doing. Hopefully it's going to warm up in the near future. And it's not going to be an issue, but it does turn sort of medium resins into slightly thicker resins, and a thick resin into a really thick resin. So again, just be wary of your surrounding temperatures. I don't think it'll affect anything. I still think we'll get a good effect. So that is about right. I've got just over 1 ounce in each of those. And now all I'm going to do is use a silicone tool to just try and get rid of those bubbles, because the last thing I want, if this is going to work, is bubbles. So again, just bringing them to the top if I can see them. And again, just going around the edge of the mold to make sure that there's none in those little crevices where they like to hide. And you know what? You're probably always going to get the odd one, but if you can just take 4 or 5 minutes, well, a couple of minutes really, at this point, to try and get rid of as many as you can, it makes a huge difference to your finished piece, you know. And nobody likes to get a bubble in an effect that they like. So here we go. That's most of the ones out of that one. Couple in there, around the sides. And as I say, I think part of it is the colder weather. So the resin can't degas as well as it would, but I'm not prepared to turn my heating up that high. So hopefully, just by doing it this way, it will still resolve the problem. I just want to get rid of any big bubbles that I can see. I'm still confident that the little ones will disperse, especially since it's already gone through the bubble removal machine as well. But I just want to, as you can see, try and get rid of the bigger bubbles. And I'm going to use my my new mini long neck lighter for this as well, although it's becoming a bit like a flamethrower already. So it's one of those things where I thought it wouldn't be very powerful, but it is. And in fact, no, I'm just going to use a torch actually on a low setting because it's by my side. Just trying to get rid of those bubbles that we've just encouraged to the top, and there's still a few in there. So again, I can see one on the base there. All I do is try and lift them up to the surface where the torch can get them. And some of them are more awkward than others. But if you play around with them long enough, they'll come to that surface and they'll either pop naturally or you can get them with the torch. I think normally they have to be within about probably 1 mil of that surface in order for it to pop them. Otherwise the resin kind of protects them, I think. So there we go. I think that's most of the larger ones up to the surface. There we go. Much better. And obviously I'm going to be dropping alcohol inks on these as well. So what I'll probably find is the alcohol will disperse of any of the smaller ones that are left. Now, I've been thinking about colours for these, and I'm just looking around them first, making sure that I've got a reasonably even coat going all the way around, because again, it's not very thick this. At this point, it's probably less than 1/2 centimetre because the full mould is only 1 centimetre. So my concern here is that the Petri, because it's such a thin layer, may blob, but I'm hoping it doesn't. So I'm going to start with the centres, and I think I want sort of a yellowy orange for the centres. So I always use the Let's Resin inks as well for my Petri, guys. I just find the colours are the best. I just want to get 1 drop in that centre. I might go in with an orange in a minute if I'm not happy with the colour, because I do want it to be quite an orangey yellowy centre. Yeah, I think I will actually. So I'm going to go on top of that yellow just with an orange, just to add a bit of depth. And I just want 1 drop in the centre. And then what I'm going to do is add my drop of white sinker to that before I add the rest. And hopefully that will sort of contain that colour for the centre of these blooms. Again, just trying to get the 1 drop in there. There we go. And now I'm going to concentrate on the outers. And I think I want sort of a pinkish blue bloom, if that makes sense. So I'm going to go with, I think, a blue on the outer and a red on the inner. But I don't have a lot of space to play with, so it's all going to depend very much on how these inks spread. So I'm going to go in with my favourite blue, which is a light blue. It's cerulean, just in the outer edges of these petals. And just let that spread for a second. And again, guys, I don't know if this is going to work or not. I've never tried it, but I just thought by layering it, we might get a different effect, which I might actually prefer to the effect I got when I combined it. So this is my cerulean, and I'm not going to add my white sinker to this yet until I'm happy with the colour blend I've got for these petals. So next I'm going to go in with this sort of darkish pinky colour and just go in between the cerulean. And you can already see the colours are amazing. And as I say, I've not found any alcohol inks that beat Let's Resin on the colours for me. And they've just told me that my discount code is now working again. So if you want to get yourself any inks or moulds or resin from Let's Resin, the discount code's in the description, which is ccuk, and you can get yourself 10% off. And it works in the States and in the UK and Europe. So again, have a look on there. But if you can save yourself some money, it's always worth doing so. Right, so far, no disasters. I'm pretty happy with that. But I'm going to go in with, I think, 1 more drop of the cerulean around the edges. Just because for me, but then again, I do want to see the petals. Decisions. No, I'm going to do it. 1 more drop of the cerulean, just on top of where it already is. And I'm still hoping that if I get this right, you're still going to see the bloom petals in the second layer. So I don't want it to be too thick because that could prevent that. But I just want there to be enough colour so that I'm happy with it. There we go. I'm happy with that. So now what I'm going to do is go in with my white sinker again. But this time, as I say, I'm only going to do 1 drop per petal. And these are like 5 petals. So you'll see what I mean in a second, like that. Trying to get it sort of in the centre. And hopefully this will just create a little bit of a Petri effect. Oh, that had 2 drops. I've got a feeling I'm going to get a blob there. Always fine with my Petri. If I get more than 1 drop on top of each other, I get blobbing. But we'll find out. There we go. And, oh, nearly forgot this one. And obviously what's going to happen anyways, the resin's going to pull this in. So I don't think it's going to cover the whole design. But hopefully it's just going to create something different. You know, that's what I'm always looking for in resin. And look at that from my white sinker bottle. There we go. So always keep wipes next to you as well, just to wipe everything off. But now I'm just going to leave that to do its thing for the next hour. Come back in an hour, do a stir. And it's how I'm going to do the stir I'm still thinking about at the minute, because I don't want to ruin the effect. But I'm hoping that's still going to pull in a bit more so that in the second layer, when I put the white bloom paste around it, we're still going to see some of those petals coming through. Might work, it might not, I don't know. This is all about experimenting and having fun. So I'll see you guys in an hour. Hey guys, and we are back, and it's been about 5.5 hours, so I think these are going to be pretty ready for the second coat, the bloom part now. But I love the way that the Petri pulled together, and that's why I didn't do a swirl. I just left it because hopefully I'm going to have some long Petri strands in there, which I think will look really cool in the bloom. So I've just mixed up around about 6 ounces of resin. We're up to 33.4, which is almost there. I want it to be at, I don't know, 34, 35 degrees. And the key here, I think, to make this look like it belongs together is going to be doing the inks in pretty much the same pattern before I put the bloom mixture in. So as always, I'm going to be using, well, for this one anyway, I'm going to be using the Ocean White from Let's Resin for the white paste. So first thing I'm going to do is, before I pour the resin into there, is just pour around about half a cup's worth. I think that should be enough for all 4 of these blooms, to be honest with you, because you don't need an awful lot of white to create your blooms. And all I'm going to do to this is add probably 2 drops of the Ocean White, he says. So here we go. I want this to just be resting in the bag, I suppose, whilst I'm dropping the inks and doing the rest of it, so that hopefully it's ready to pour when I need it. And I'm going to use a piping bag for this, guys, because those of you that watch the channel know I'm probably better at piping. There's 1, and I'm going to add a half if I can. There we go. So 1.5 drops of the Ocean White. Now, I was going to add some iridescent powder to it as well, but I decided against it because I want the star of the show to be these Petri centres. And then hopefully this is just going to create some nice white petals going around it, and hopefully it'll all come together and look like one flower. Is the plan. Whether it works or not, we won't know until we demold tomorrow, but I can feel that this is warming up, which is nice. And as you can see, it's almost opaque, but not quite. There's still an element of translucency to it, which is where I want it. So I'm just going to pour that straight into this piping bag I've got at the side, and that can be my white bloom paste. And now I'm going to fill these molds up with the clear resin. I'm going to check the temperature first. But then I'm just going to fill them up to just below the surface. I think I'll still want about 1 mil of space if I can get it. So I'm just checking the temperature, pretty much bang on 35, which is perfect. So I'm going to fill these molds now, pretty much leaving around about 1 millimetre of space. I went slightly American there, but there we go. And again, I want a decent enough layer so that hopefully I don't get the dreaded blobs, but it can still bloom. And I'm going to try and leave around about 2 mil of space. 1 mil for my white bloom and 1 mil for a back if I decide to do one. There we go. And I'm just going to let that settle now and hopefully push itself out to the edges. I've still got plenty to add a little tiny bit if I need to into the edges, like so. But I think that should be almost there now. Just going to add a little bit where I think it needs it. And I'm just doing this because I want to make sure there's that thin layer going all the way along. This could probably do with another drop just here. And again, we want to get rid of any bubbles that we can see, because the last thing I want, if this is going to work, is any bubbles interfering. And there we go. I think that is about right. So I'm reasonably happy with that I've got a thin coverage. And I'm just eyeballing it now. A little bit of space still in each mould. So actually I am going to add a tiny bit more because I want this to have almost full is what I'm looking for. But I just want enough space in case I want to add a back after I've added the white. There we go, and I'm happy with that. I think that will do. And then anything spare, I'm just going to pour into a drip mold that I've got at the side. So first thing I'm going to do now is just make sure I'm getting rid of any bubbles. And again, it's exactly the same as last time. Slightly going around the edges, like so, because that's where, if I've got any bubbles, they'll want to stick. And then just bringing them into the center, because the last thing I want, if this works, is annoying air bubbles in there. But again, you've got to be really gentle at this point because I've not got a lot of space here between these layers, and the last thing I want to do is scratch the layer that I've already done. That's why you're better off using a silicone tool if you've got one, than a toothpick or anything like that. And then this last one, just going around those edges. And there we go. That is pretty much the bubble removal stage done. I'm just going to torch it. And remember, I haven't put any alcohol inks on this layer yet, so I should be okay to torch briefly. And then I'm just going to eyeball it, and there's one bubble that's blatantly still there, which is this one here. Force that to the top. And then I've got one in here, again, forcing that up to the top. Can't see any in that one. There is one in here, and I think that should be good. So now I'm just going to torch it once more, and then I think the key is, as I say, it's going to be making it look symmetrical. So I've got to try and get the inks almost identical. So I'm going to go in with the inks now before I go in with the white, and hopefully get it in the right order. So there was one drop of yellow in the centre, followed by a drop of orange, and hopefully this will just create a symmetrical colour pattern, is what I'm hoping for. Here goes the orange, and I didn't want that. I've just got an extra drop that's dropped, which may spoil it. I'm hoping not, but we will see what happens. There's not a lot I can do about that now. So again, just going to go in with, in fact, I'm going to shake my white sinker first, and then just try and get one drop in the centre, like we did last time. In fact, I don't even know why I'm using the white sinker here. There's no need for it because I'm going to be going in with the bloom paste. So scrap that part, guys. So I'm going to go in with the cerulean, but hopefully at least that'll confine the orange a little bit. And again, just one drop in each of these. And I'm just hoping that this is going to work and give us a more defined Petri effect with the bloom. But I think it should. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't. I'm just going to leave that to the side as well because I'm probably going to want it again in a minute, because I'm going to go in again with this pinkish colour between like I did last time. And then I'm just going to let these settle on the surface for a second. And I haven't even done that one, so for some reason I've completely missed one. Do you ever find that when you're doing 4 coasters at once, your mind just goes a little bit blank and you completely forget one? So there we go. Again, around with the cerulean, like so. And then around with the pink. Then I'm going to go around with one more drop of the cerulean in each, like we did last time. I'm just hoping putting that extra white sinker in the centre, which I didn't mean to do, isn't going to affect things here, because I'm pretty happy with the way that that's looking right now. They all look reasonably equal, or as equal as I think I'm going to be able to get them. So that's it now. I'm just going to go in with my pattern with the white bloom paste, I think. I'm pretty happy with the way the colours look. Or do I blend them? No, I'm going to keep them separate. You'll see I'm quite indecisive when it comes down to my resin art. And I suppose the greatest thing for me is the art almost forms itself, you know. You're letting the resin do what it wants to do. So there you go, that is my white. And I'm just going to snip it off halfway between the air bubble. And then hopefully it's at the right temperature and will drip out naturally. And don't forget, the main thing we're going to see anyway is going to be that front pattern, I think, of the Petri. And then hopefully these petals will still stand out on the outside. So that is coming out nicely. Twist in the bag again, and we should be ready to go. So I'm going to start off in the edge and just go round with each one, trying to follow the design, the mould, without getting too close to it. And I'm hoping I still get a little bit of white sticking through, because I do quite like a little bit of white in my blooms as well as the colours. And there we go, I'm happy with that. So that's one. I'm just hoping I've got enough white here. I'm just looking, I went around 3 times, I think, before doing the spiral. There we go. That's that one. But let me know what you think we're going to get here in comments, guys. Some of the experiments work, some don't, I'm afraid. But I'm hoping that this one's going to be one of the success stories. There we go, and then the last one. There we go, and I'm pretty happy with that. I'm just wondering, I've still got some white left. Do I go in with another layer? Maybe just on this one, just to get it closer to that edge. I don't know why, but that one seemed a little bit out of sorts. There we go. And I think I'm pretty happy with that as a generic design, so I'm going to leave that for now. Any bits where I think it's been slightly heavy, so here, just going to pull them out to try and prevent the dreaded B word. And you tend to find it's wherever you start, you'll get it. Can't see any more in that one, or where you finish often as well. So again, just pull it through, and that should prevent the B word. Hopefully, he says. Now again, I've got to be really careful with this because again, I've got a very thin amount of resin to work with here. And what I'm going to do is just my standard design with this mold, which is pulling it in where the mold tells me, if that makes sense. So in here, all the way into the center, and everywhere where these petals are going inwards, I'm just pulling it in initially to make the 5 petals like so. It's almost like having a guide on where you need to go to get the perfect petals. But again, trying to do it so it's not too deep, and I'm just skimming the surface of that resin to create this design. And again, I don't know if this is going to work or not, guys. It's the first time I've done them this way, but you know me, I'm always looking for that next innovation in resin that I've not done before or not tried before, you know, to see what we can get. And then what I'm going to do with these is I'm actually going to pull the center of them out all the way from the center, all the way out like that. Hopefully just bringing a little tiny bit of that orange all the way through the petal. And then they just have to bloom. As long as they do that, I think we'll get a great result. That's always the tricky part, is whether or not they bloom. But I don't see any reason why they shouldn't. I felt like the temperatures were right for the resin, which is the main thing that I think affects my blooms, is getting the temperature right. And as long as you do that, the rest should pretty much work. And then the question is just going to be is hopefully when it does bloom, what it's going to look like with that Petri front. But again, I'm trying to be really delicate as I'm doing it because I'm literally just wanting to skim that surface. I'm just praying it blooms, and I've put enough white in there to let it bloom. But I think I'm pretty happy with that. I don't think I want to do anything else. It's now just going to be a case of leaving them, hoping that they bloom over the next half an hour or so, and then deciding if I want to put it back on. In fact, I do want to give them a little tiny swirl in that center as well. Not much of a swirl, just a tiny one like that. I think it will bring it together a little bit more. And this one as well. And there we go. I'm happy with that. Now it's just a case of leaving them, and I'm probably going to come back in about 5 hours and decide whether or not I want to put it back on them. But now it's just a case of waiting, hoping that the white does its thing and blooms, and that the resin pulls it all into the center. So I'll see you guys in about 5 hours. Hey guys, and we're back, and it's only been about 4 hours, but something is telling me that to really make these pop, they're going to need a back. I don't know what it is, it's just a gut feeling, and I always say when you have a gut feeling, go with it, and I just think it's going to really stand out, especially if that Petri layer stands out in front of the bloom. I just want something to make the petals pop as well. So, going to do one of my favourite backs. So I've just mixed about 80 mils worth of resin in my little silicone pot. And one of my favourite backs to do with anything at the minute is just black pigment paste with a little bit of silver glitter. It just comes out so well. And it should give me that deep, dark colour that I'm wanting to make the white of the petals pop. So all I'm going to use is a couple of drops of the resin dye paste, the black. Shouldn't need a lot. And if you can hear tap dancing in the background, sorry, it is Reggie. So there we go, that's all you need. Couple of drops, if that, of the black, and that'll make this all of that resin go jet black like that. And it is amazing how deep and dark a colour you get. And I tell you what, ever since I've started using this, I don't use mica anymore, black mica powders, because I just prefer the true blackness of using a resin dye. And I tell you what, it's transformed a lot of pieces. And then next, what I'm going to do is just add to that, not too much, a couple of scoops of this laser silver glitter that I've got, and it creates an almost galaxy-like resin, which you'll see in a minute. So again, one, I don't want it too much because I don't want it to overtake the piece, but 2 scoops should be enough for that. And as I say, there's 80 ml of resin in there, so you don't need a lot. And I don't even think I'm going to need all of this because I've not left a lot of space in these coasters to actually put a backing on. So I'm going to have to be quite careful how I add it. It's going to have to be quite a thin layer. But there we go, that's nicely mixed in, and look at that. That's why I like it. Look at that as a back. You just get all of those different colours sparkling through. And this is from somebody that isn't a massive fan of glitter, guys. So, just gonna, as I say, really gently add this now and try not to overflow because I've only got literally, I think, 1 mil of space. And it's very rare that I do it this thin, but I still want to put this back layer on. Something is telling me that it will just finish off the piece nicely. So again, I'm trying not to put a lot in, but again, I need enough for it to spread around a little bit. And again, it's just because I've not really left any space. That's why I'm being a little bit careful with how much I'm putting in each. Then I'm going to spread it around with a stick. But this should completely fill each one of these molds. And as I say, hopefully, just give us a really nice back to really make those whites pop through from those petals. Problem is, once you've done it, there's no going back, guys. So I've been umming and ahhing for the past 2 or 3 hours on whether or not I should add a back, and then my gut told me yes, you should. So that's why I'm doing it. And again, I don't need it to be a thick one. I just want it to be a thin back, enough to sort of cover, give me a really thin coat on the back of each. And hopefully there's still going to be a bit of surface tension anyway, so even if I slightly overfill them, should hopefully be okay. There we go. So they're looking pretty full at the minute. I'm going to put a couple of more drops in this one. Just as I say, I want them to be completely full. I don't want them to be overfilled, but if they do slightly dome, again, it's not a problem for me. I quite like the slightly domed look, and it often saves you having to do any sanding the next day. There we go. I think that one's now full to the brim. Now this one as well, this one could actually probably fit a little bit more in around the edge. So just putting a tiny bit in, and I think 80 mil is about right. So each one of these has had around about 20 mil of resin just to create that back, as I say. And I am going to move it around with a stick in a minute just to make sure the whole of the back has been covered. And as I say, if it does dome slightly, that's not an issue. It just saves me sanding tomorrow. But what I don't want it to do is break that surface tension like I've just nearly done there on that edge. So there we go. It has used all 80 mil pretty much. Probably fit another drop in that one. And then I'm just looking around anywhere where it hasn't gone all the way. So here, again, could probably do with 2 more drops. Come on. And I think we're about there, but what I'm going to do is, as I say, just move it around now with my silicone tool. And you see where I've broken that surface tension on this one? It's all going to flow off unless I salt it. So Just wiping a little bit off, and hopefully that will now be okay. And then moving it around like that should be fine. Again, just making sure it's all going all the way up to the edge so I don't get like a little transparent window. It's the thing when you're covering something in black, you need to make sure the whole of the back is covered, because any little spots that aren't, it will be clearly visible. And as I say, I think I have slightly overfilled that, but it should still be okay. Just having a look on this one as well. This could do with just moving that resin slightly over the edge like that. And I think that's about right, guys. So now it's just going to be a case of waiting. I wish I could get a cloth just in there again. This is the one that concerns me, where I think I have overfilled it. So I'm just trying to get the excess off so it doesn't keep breaking that surface tension, because that is the risk. There we go. I don't mind that. Up to there. Now stay. So that is pretty much it, guys. Now I'm going to let these cure. Again, that one's very close to breaking that surface tension, but it hasn't yet. And it's because I didn't really leave any space, guys. So I wasn't expecting it to be simple, but I think it will just finish them off nicely. And if I have to do a tiny bit of sanding or fixing up around the edges, then so be it. You know, if it makes the piece look the best it can. So I'm just going to torch off any bubbles, because we don't like bubbles in our resin. And that's it until tomorrow and demold, hopefully. And hopefully it's going to be a success. Hopefully we're going to get almost a 4-dimensional piece with that Petri at the front, the 3D blooms at the back, and then this final galaxy glitter layer at the back. So I'll see you guys in the morning for demold. Morning everyone, and it is the next day and it is time to demold. I'm loving the back. So if nothing else, I've got some lovely coasters with a cosmic galaxy style back. So here we go. And these won't be fully cured, but they'll be cured enough to demold, hopefully. And I'm just intrigued as to what that Petri effect is going to look like with the 3D bloom as a second layer. As I say, I've combined the two before, but I did it in one sort of layer. And I like the look of that, but I'm just intrigued as to what this will look like. Two of my favourite techniques, hopefully, in one coaster. And these are still, as I say, a tiny bit soft, but again, it's good enough to demold. So here we go. Wow. I do like that. That is very different. And I'm glad I put a backing on, because it just emphasises those white petals in the background. Tiny bit of blobbing in the centre. But I love these long strands of Petri spores that have happened just as the resin's pulled in to create that 3D bloom effect as well. And I don't think I've seen a bloom quite like these, so I like them. They're different. Let me know what you think in comments, but let's have a look at the others as well. Let's say it's a shame about that tiny bit of blobbing in certain areas. Let's see if we've got one without it. And do me a favour, guys, if you are liking the content, please like and subscribe to the channel. Or do you know what? We've got memberships open as well, and I'm going to be doing the first prize draw for members probably next week. So that's quite exciting. Membership costs you less than the price of a coffee, but it does help the channel so much in growth. So if you can do that, just go to the channel homepage and click join membership. It's as simple as that. Gives you lots of different perks, emojis, stickers, and it shows that you're genuinely supporting the channel and you're liking everything that we do. So if you can, do me a favor, go to that and click join. It's as simple as that. Here we go. So number 2. I'm expecting these to all be hopefully quite similar. And I love that. Again, it's got those long Petri spores in places. A tiny bit of blobbing again in the centre, but then you can just see the 3D bloom petals behind it. So let me know what you think in comments, guys. Do you like this? It's definitely different, and it still keeps that flower effect, which is what I wanted. I didn't want it to be too crazy, but I like it. You know, it's something different. So that's number 2. And I could probably, these are still soft enough if I wanted to turn these into mini bowls, but I think these are better as coasters for me. And again, just being careful as I demold. And I'm just weighing up in my head actually whether I preferred the first time I did the Petri and the bloom effect, or whether I prefer this version. Again, that is lovely. It's just a shame about the blobbing. The spores look amazing, the way that they've stretched all the way into that center, and I really like that. But let me know what you think in comments, guys. Do you think these were a success, or are you not a fan? Now this one I massively overpoured, as you can see, just to try and get a back on it. I'm just going to take the excess off now because it's probably easier to do that whilst it's still in the mould. There we go. And this is number 4. But I don't think these are my favourite effect or pieces, but I still like them because they are different. And that's what I'm always looking for on this channel, trying to do something different, what I haven't seen somebody do before. So if you've got any ideas on that in comments as well, let me know. I'm willing to give everything a try at least a couple of times to see if we can get it to work. Wow, I think that one's my favourite actually. Again, tiny bit of blobbing. I think it's just because all of the white sinker pulls into the middle and just makes it a bit heavier. But again, I love those long spores. I think that's what makes it really different to me from anything else that I've seen. So if you've liked it, do me a favour, like and subscribe. I'll get you some close-up pictures of this, and I'll see you guys on the next one.
Welcome to our custom space where dreams take flight. Epoxy visions coming to life. It's a perfect sight. We pawn together, blooming three, resin family. Testing my guts, new creations. We set the free. Join our journey, like and subscribe. This is our place. Ocean seas to dragons and blooms. We carve with grace. Welcome to custom carving, where dreams come true.